Hello, oceanography students. So we are going to talk a little bit about the study of the oceans and the exploration of them. And so to start out, we need to learn what oceanography is. So oceanography literally means charting and mapping the ocean. And we'll learn later in this lecture where that term originated. So for oceanographers, there are basically four main categories of oceanography. Oceanography can also be referred to as ocean science or marine science as well. But generally, we have four types of oceanography: biological oceanography, geological oceanography, chemical oceanography, and physical oceanography. So an example of biological oceanography could be somebody who studied coral or studied fish or, studied some living aspect of the ocean. But oftentimes, those scientists are referred to as marine biologists. And usually when we say biological oceanographer, we're referring to somebody who studies plankton and small living things in the ocean. And so one might use a plankton net to study those. And chemical oceanographers do exactly as it sounds. They study the chemistry of the water in the ocean. So they might take water samples and look at what kind of chemicals and the proportions of each chemicals that exists in that water sample and maybe how they change from one place to another. But of course, biological oceanographers and chemical oceanographers might work together as well because the chemicals in the water affect the living things as well. And then geological oceanographers can study anything that's related to the geology of the ocean. So they could be studying how oceans form and how oceans are destroyed. They could be studying processes of sedimentation. And there are lots of different ways that they could be studying these things. They could be going down and looking at the bottom of the ocean. They could be drilling into the bottom of the ocean and taking cores. They could be using satellite imagery to look at changes in coastlines and things like that. And then finally, we also have physical oceanographers, and physical oceanographers study the physical movement of the water. So that could be things like tides, it could be currents, wave activity, and physical oceanographers often use really advanced technologies to study the ocean, such as, putting an autonomous underwater vehicle into the water and programming it to swim around the oceans and collect different data as it goes along. Okay, so again, we've got four main branches: biological oceanography, chemical oceanography, geological oceanography, and physical oceanography. And we will be exploring all of those in our class. So humans have been taking to the oceans for at least tens of thousands of years. They went for a variety of reasons: food, to colonize new lands or expand their civilizations, to learn how to better travel or navigate, and to gain information, maybe to trade, and to, later on to actually learn about the ocean itself and what inhabits it. So after this video, you're going to watch a couple of different videos that discuss early ocean explorers. And of course, there are many more, such as Prince Henry the Navigator, or James Cook, or Ferdinand Magellan, just to name a few. But I wanted to highlight the ones that maybe you hadn't heard about. One thing to note is that James Cook is important because he's credited kind of as being the first marine scientist. And the reason why is because he took part in basically the first expedition that included the collection of scientific data. Okay, so with the journeys into the ocean came advancements and inventions, and the capabilities of the boats and the ships saw advancements. We saw advancements in navigating and new charts and navigational aids. And an example of an invention or advancement was the compass, which was actually developed by the Chinese around 1100 CE or Common Era. So there really is a lot to look into if you're really into history, and I know that your textbook in Chapter 2 does discuss a lot more than what we're going to learn about this week. So if you want to delve into it, you can start with your textbook, and then you can look into even more stuff about different explorers, and just, you're probably going to find some pretty negative stuff about these explorers as well. Okay, now so early ocean exploration was really, kind of to advance, to trade, to do things like that. But it wasn't until later that we actually had expeditions that were specifically to record scientific information. And the first one of that type is called the Challenger Expedition. And it was conceived by Sir Charles Wyville Thomson, who was a Scottish naturalist and zoologist, and he partnered with one of his students, who was from Canada, John Murray, to organize and carry out the expedition. He called this an expedition for oceanography. So that's where we get the term oceanography. And it took, actually, I think that I just read that there was still some data that was being analyzed from this expedition. So it was kind of an amazing feat, and it brought us to modern day scientific research. So from there, basically the study of the oceans and the marine environment exploded, and so different oceanographic research institutions arose to accommodate this research. So one of those is Scripps Institute of Oceanography that was founded in 1903. Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution was founded in 1930. Moss Landing Marine Labs was founded in 1966. And Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute was founded in 1971. And then another close one is the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, which was founded in 1987. So governments have also done some research, and the U.S. government is no exception to that. We have the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, which was founded in 1970. But parts of NOAA were founded much earlier than that. For example, part of NOAA now is the U.S. Coast and Geodetic Survey, which was founded in 1807. The Weather Bureau was formed in 1870. The Bureau of Commercial Fisheries was formed in 1871. And that had the first government research vessel, which was called the Albatross, which is shown here. Now, a lot of the information that we as Americans get actually comes from scientists at NOAA. They monitor the weather, so they tell us when we're having, crazy weather events or, hurricanes and things like that. They also are in charge of charting and mapping. They control 16, maybe more now, satellites, and they are also in charge of preserving and protecting different marine life, so fish and marine mammals and things like that. Okay, so basically, when you think of them, you can think they kind of study everything, because they're not just studying stuff in the ocean, they're also studying stuff in the atmosphere. So they study a lot. Okay, all right, so in this week's discussion post, I want you to include one thing that you found interesting about the early exploration videos that you will watch next. So the next videos are on, there's one video on early Polynesian exploration, there are two videos on early Chinese exploration, and there's one video about the first Europeans to reach North America. And it's probably not who you think it is. Okay, so I will see you soon, and I hope that you have a good day or night.